Terry Brooks has written over 40 best-selling novels, including the Shannara, Landover, and the Word Void series. When his first novel, The Sword of Shannara, debuted in 1977, many called Brooks the heir to J.R.R. Tolkien, but it was William Faulkner that served as his inspiration.
Well, I didn't get to Tolkien before I got to Faulkner, for starters, and I read all of William Faulkner in conjunction with my senior thesis at college and an English major. And I was always taken with the way that Faulkner interacted his characters and showed how the one group of people impacted another group. And he had the poor Snopes clan and the rich Comptons. Snopeses eventually stole everything from the Comptons because they were without morals, and the Comptons had too many morals and couldn't function. The fact that one generation could so impact another generation, and that you lived with the sins of your fathers, everything got torn down because of this, and because of the weight that was carried around by these people who couldn't turn away from their past. And it's very Southern in that regard. I was fascinated with his writing. I loved the storytelling, and that became my primary interest when I found Tolkien. And then I took all that and transposed it over into a Tolkien-esque kind of story, and thought that was a good way to go. I love the fact that he was the first recognized author who took a poor person, not a major prince or a great knight or somebody who had status in the world, but just some poor farm boy, and made that character the central character in the story. And I thought, that's what I want to do, is I want to work from the bottom up and tell a story of that sort. Plus all the other things that people love Tolkien for in telling that story. And I was a big enthusiast at that point of both science fiction and fantasy, so it was a logical step over for me.
That focus on storytelling and character creation has led Brooks to be one of the most successful fantasy writers in history. With several series lasting over numerous books, how does Brooks keep all his worlds and characters straight?
Well, these days I have minions, and they help keep me straight. And my web druid, Sean, is a principal fan of my books and knows them all better than I do. So when I really get in trouble with remembering something, I call him up and ask him to bail me out. I started out with outlines. I outlined everything, and I was kind of a fanatic about that, and that helped me in the early days. And I drew maps, little 8.5 by 11 maps that sort of choreographed the locations of the different groups of peoples and the paths that they were taking and so forth, and that was a quick reference point too. And after about the first dozen books, I started to get really confused about where things were, so I started to keep files on all this. And now I just go back and pick up the book that I always know which book I need to look in for a character or for a reference of some sort, and I just go back and dig it out that way.
One of Brooks's fans is George Lucas, who handpicked Brooks to write the novelization of Star Wars, The Phantom Menace.
I said, I'm not sure you got the right guy here. And he says, I've got the right guy. I said, yeah, but I don't write science fiction. And he says, well, neither do I. I'm just telling a story here. The more we talked about it, the more it became clear that this was going to be a partnership, and the partnership was going to work like this. He was going to tell me, you can do anything you want to do. You can rewrite the script any way you choose that you think doesn't impact the way in which the story will be told. You can write new stuff for me. In fact, I wish you would. And then he gave me some suggestions about that. And he says, how does that sound? And I said, it sounds to me like at the end of the day, you're still going to be able to go back and change anything you don't like. And he says, that's right. He says, but I'm not going to do it if you do the job you're supposed to do. And he didn't. He didn't change a darn thing. He said, anytime you need me, call me and you'll get the secretary or somebody and we'll set something up and talk on the phone. So I got an appointment to speak with him, and I said, I don't understand exactly how this group of characters interacts with this group of characters, and how half an hour later, he talked for half an hour about the whole thing. And that's when I knew he really knew his stuff, because he didn't have to stop and think about it. He knew it cold, and he laid it all out there for me, just as clear as could be, about what the relationships were and what he was trying to see happen and all that sort of thing. And it made my job 100% easier. And so really, I wrote that book in 90 days. There was nothing to it. After that, I said I'm never going to do another one. That was it. It'll never get better than this. So I never have done another one.
In college, Brooks studied great writers like Faulkner, and now he's discovering that people are studying his writing.
I never think of myself in quite the same terms, even on the best of times. You know I'm a storyteller. I don't consider myself to be anybody special. I particularly am nervous about being compared to some of the great storytellers, like William Faulkner. But I think I'm a competent workman, and I've always focused on being a good storyteller, so those things work for me. But it is always unnerving to have somebody come up to me and say, you know, Mr. Brooks, I have grown up reading your books. And I say, well, how old are you? 15. And I say, well, okay, keep growing.
BCPL spoke with Terry Brooks at his appearance at the Creatures, Crimes, and Creativity Con in 2022. The annual event brings together authors and fans of books to discuss all things writing.
The people who read in this field are really good people. They have a family relationship that doesn't exist in hardly any other group. They communicate with each other, they share books with each other, they get together. It's like an enlarged family or school, I guess would be more like it. And that's terrific. I really love that. And coming to one of these, it's sort of like being in another group of those kinds of people. Everybody's friendly, everybody talks. You're just talking with people who like books the way you do. And I'm always looking for those opportunities.
In addition to talking with fans, Brooks does check out his reviews on occasion.
My editor, again, Lester, told me, he says, you're going to get a lot of reviews on this book. He says, half of them are going to be good, half of them are going to be bad. Don't pay attention to any of them, because none of them are going to do you justice, and none of them are going to make any difference in the way you sell books. It's the word of mouth of the readers, it's the intensity of passion for your book that the readers have that will sell the books and make a determination about whether you can go on with this as a way to make a living. He said, just ignore all the rest of it. And I always thought that was really good advice, because, you know, you're going to get run over the coals at some point, no matter what, and you're also going to be worshipped as the next god at another point, so you just have to let that all wash off and remember what you're doing. This is a job. Do it like a job. Treat it like a job. And don't just get yourself all caught up in the emotional side of things.